distracts from the topic.
Why do you say burping distracts from the topic?
Because it does. It distracts.
I don't think so.
It distracts. It takes away from whatever you're talking about. Because
I
then people might be like, man, I just can't get past that burp.
I
Yeah,
personally
that
do
burping.
not believe that burp here and there as a natural form of not dying, because if we didn't burp, we would die. If we didn't pass gas, we would die.
When you watch the news, how many
Ma,
of the
you need
newscasters...
to sit and like scoot over on a couch, or like you need to scoot to you need to like
How many newscasters are burping during their broadcast? Can you hear that better?
yeah.
Okay,
You just got to be in front of the mic.
I am. Now I am.
Like you gotta you need like a 3-finger difference for like the best audio quality. You need like a 3.
How's that?
Oh, that is beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, keep it there. That's nice.
All right.
Okay.
Ready?
Cool.
Are we ready?
Yeah. You ready, Mom?
As I will ever be.
Okay. Well, we're gonna jam to this tune for a few minutes. We're gonna just jam out
When are we starting?
when the tune's over.
Okay.
All right. So, what it do, y'all? This is In Fact Your Boy Rice. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am joined today by my special guest, Mama Rice Bowl, Yvonne York. What's up?
All love and peace and unity.
All right. Well, introduce them to the song that we are going to introduce today's podcast with.
Inagata Davida by Iron Butterfly.
Well, this one is Inagata
8-bit.
Davida by Slayer 8-bit.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So I think this is a remake by Slayer that got remade into an 8-bit of the old original version. But it's
By
pretty dope.
Original version.
It's
Iron
really
Butterfly.
it's dope. Shout out to Leo Black on YouTube. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, won't you come with me and walk this land?
Land.
Please take my hand. I cannot sing.
Wow, I get my singing voice
Sorry.
from you, man. I definitely get my singing voice from you.
Was that a little off? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, not at all.
Sure, right.
No, not at all, man.
I
Damn.
didn't get to practice. That's the problem.
Oh, you want some more vote? All right, do some do ra mi fa so's. Hit us with it.
Wait.
Do ra mi fa sol la di da do.
Oh, won't you come with me? And oh, won't you come with me?
Come with me.
And walk this land.
Walk this land.
Please take my
Land.
hand.
I am in love with your singing voice. Like, I definitely know why auto-tune is definitely on the docket for me.
That's why they needed to create that for people like me.
For people like me, because I got it from you, and y'all never sent me the vocal lessons as a kid. So, ooh, this the breakdown.
Ooh. This is like the original is probably like an 8-minute song. I think something like that. Should we start over so the people don't have to be subjected to my off-key singing voice?
Hail to the nah. That is in here like swimwear.
We never said the hook though, which is Inagata Davida.
I got a
No,
libido.
Inagata Davida.
I got a libido. I got the pizza.
You are like,
the box.
oh my gosh.
And got a pizza.
People who are fans of this song will
Yeah.
not get over this.
Yeah.
They will not.
In a got a duh feeder. In a got a duh pita.
Oh,
Speaking of
PETA.
PETA, what's up, ma? So today we are kicking it with my mother, who, we just gonna chop it up, man. So again, this is your boy White Rice. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And just like every single podcast, it cannot get started until we do the classic. What it fucking do? It's your boy White fucking Rice. Mom absolutely refuses to actually sing that. She will not say fucking and fucking.
I think I dropped the F-bomb singing it with you the other day. And then the second time.
You said freaking the other day on the actual actual
second
pod.
time I think I said freaking.
So what we're going to do, so what this is, man, is I'm going to start doing, also integrating it within the 60-second, 60-minute sphere with the podcast, especially what I'm going to start doing is opening it up to also speaking with guests, man, because my perspective is not always the only perspective, and I recognize that. And so there are topics in this world that just do not sit as prevalent to me on a day-to-day basis as it does with other people. Other people have other opinions and other perspectives that are very important to hear. If anything with 60 seconds with Rice, with 60 minutes with Rice, is I want to sit in the middle. I want to be able to provide perspective. If someone is saying something and I can see it's hypocritical, I want to call them out for it, and vice versa, regardless of what the topic is, what anything is. And I understand that my perspective is just one human being's perspective in a world filled with 7 billion perspectives. And some of those we agree on, some of those we don't. Some of those we are passionate about. Others we just kind of notice it in a day-to-day and we kind of have an opinion on it. So that's what kind of this is it's going to be 60 minutes with whoever my guest is. It's going to be special episodes that I roll out as I get a chance to sit down with people in my life that I believe bring really cool stories, really cool page turning, apparently very loudly into the microphone.
Yes.
We should have handled whatever note we're taking in pre-production, but a clearly crinkling paper into a condenser microphone, a very highly sensitive condenser microphone, is what we do now. But no, so today is 60 minutes with my mom, 60 minutes with Yvonne, 60 minutes with Momma Rice, whatever moniker we end up calling it. But I'm just really honored. I'm actually up here right now helping her move and kind of start her Cincinnati 2.0 life before hopefully either relocating to be closer to me or to an area, maybe even on the West Coast where, people are a little more accepting of her lifestyle, and that she can actually kind of, because I know when I lived in Portland, a lot of people were, I kind of thought this was like the perfect place for my mom. So Ma, go ahead, introduce yourself, introduce kind of like who you are, what you're about, what's going on, and then we'll kind of get into our conversation about, how whatever notes you have planned on things you'd like to talk about today.
All right.
Let's do it.
I have my name's Yvonne. I've only done.
Hi, Yvonne.
Hello. I've only done a brief podcast before. Can we call this exactly can we call it a podcast?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is going on my podcast channel, so yes, I believe this. Okay, then unless you would like to,
then that's what we're doing.
Release this as like a hour plus long song, considering your amazing singing at the beginning of the podcast.
I know. So Nick and I were talking, and he invited me to do this, and he knows that I have some things I'm very passionate about in life. That came about as my life journey.
So tell us a little bit. About like some of the passions that really kind of guide your day-to-day life, that guide a lot of your motivation in like your own personal life choices.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to start off by thanking the creator or creators for giving me a heart that is very concerned, very loving toward other beings. And, I can remember that spark, especially as a teenager. And I thought, I want to do right by other people. I want their life to be better because of something I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very naive at that point about life. And super.
I mean, aren't we all really like
super naive? I think because of social media and what have you, things that weren't around when I was a teenager. I think people have a chance though at a much younger age to step into action.
Yeah.
To not just have some thoughts, but actually, I think the youth today is able to have just mountains of information that we didn't have in our hands. And so for that reason, I think they're empowered more.
Yeah.
So coming to mind right away would be Greta Thunberg.
So yeah, we actually just watched the documentary last night on Greta.
Mm-hmm. And she followed her heart and her mind and her soul. And she just, went into action and didn't give it a second thought. But so my journey in life brought me, one of my great passions is veganism.
Yeah.
And I've been at that for over a year and a half. Prior to that, I was a vegetarian for 27 plus years.
And I know, so obviously you're not my mother and only 29 years old. So what in life then inspired you to switch to veganism from obviously being a carnivore before?
Okay, well, the first thing is my, it didn't happen all at once. My nephew Phil, when he was in high school and I was a young adult, he wrote a pretty lengthy poem as a part of a high school assignment.
Yeah.
But that's where his heart was. He was a vegetarian. And that was my first, awareness of what we do to the animals and their rights. And I cried over his poem. So that was one of the first things. I worked for some holistic dentists.
Yeah.
And they certainly weren't vegans, but they leaned toward being vegetarian. And so that was another thing that gave me some thought about that, and although I was not at the time, but, we'd often go to lunch together and we'd go to a cafeteria. Most of us would eat vegan, vegetarian. Yeah. So then, fast forward many years later.
Many a year.
Yes. Married to Nick's dad, went to the honeymoon in Cancun. And he wanted to see
the good old Cancun story. Huh?
He wanted to. This was the night I became a vegetarian. He wanted to go to the bullfights, and I thought it would be one bull. Never did see anything die, be murdered, nothing like that. And it wasn't one bull. It was one after another and another and another. And we were sitting right by where the bulls would come out, and I saw that they were actually stabbed before they came out. They were stabbed in a spot that would just cause them a lot of pain and to start to bleed out and become weak. And so...
which I imagine is what they do in order to try to give an edge to the whatever the guy's name is.
There's a lot more than that happens. Yeah. That's just the beginning. And
I would figure that's like the tip of the iceberg. They're like, because we want to give a show, but we also want to make sure our dude doesn't get trampled by a full strength.
Well, the matador in this particular evening, the matador didn't come out till the many other people came out into the arena. And so the next person that arrives after he comes out of the gate, stabbed already with, he's bleeding, and someone comes out on horse, and the horse is shielded, very well shielded. And this person has long, very sharp spears that's riding on the horse, and his job is to land something like 4 spears into the bull. So in addition to the knife, the spears come, and this brutality just goes on, and some of the bulls would they would collapse on their front knees. They just didn't want to go anymore. They couldn't. They were bleeding too much, and they would be agitated until they would stand back up so the matador could come, and then he would, at the end of this torture, there might have been like 7 bulls that day or something, and then at the end, the matador would come out, when the bull is really just so depleted. But then he looks like a big hero because he walks right up to the bull and drives a sword like right up above the eyes. And I looked around. I kept looking around at everybody and the cheers, and I was like, "What?" I'm shocked. Where does no one care what's happening to them? In a sport, that's not a sport. In a sport, both people
get to walk off the court at the end of the day.
And they should know the rules of the game. Yeah. The rules of the game.
They should be willing participants in the rules of the game.
That is sportsmanship.
Yeah.
So this is not a sport to me. This is not entertainment to me. This is not okay. Mm-hmm. And so that's literally that evening. I wanted to make that choice, but I found out very short time after that I was expecting Nick. So I'm like, well, this is a bad time to go full on 100%. If maybe I don't know what I'm doing. So wanted to go totally vegetarian that night. And I did for a bit, but then I thought, okay, I've got to just cut most things out.
Yeah.
And then when I delivered him, I went all the way vegetarian. So for many years, I stuck with that for like 27 years. And some recent events caused me to change and go vegan.
Well, because I know growing up, there was always the conversations between you and I about the fact that you wanted to go vegan, and it was just a lot of...
It just didn't happen.
It was the dairy industry that, that still played a role. When we go to Skyline Chili, it was still getting the cheese on the bean and rice,
right.
Vegetarian.
Or pizzas. I was still eating a lot of pizza.
We were a lot of La Rosa, a lot of Domino's.
And I did through the years, I did cut back over time.
Yeah, I know milk was like one of the first things that you kind of weaned off before cheese.
I never did like to, just drink a glass of milk since I've been a little kid. But, things were just getting cut further back. Especially as far as eggs and cheese and milk and things like that. So, I would eat something that had those ingredients, but then eventually I was not going to eat an omelet anymore. And,
so IHOP got really limited on our IHOP trips.
Yeah. So the more recent events that brought me to this point, I'm like everyone else. I know the animals are suffering. I know they're not treated right. On especially the big factory farms and what have you. And it was hard for me to look at the videos. And that's a good sign right there. That's a sure sign right there that you're participating in something that's not right. If you cannot sit down and look at that video and make it through a video because it's too disturbing, there's your first sign that something's really wrong.
And that's really, and it speaks to something bigger in our society, where there's a lot of things, especially in American society, that we recognize as wrong, that we recognize as, that they shouldn't be right. And even people who are on the other side of that coin, they will justify why it matters and why it can't change and all of this. But when they bring up very sensitive topics that they know are sensitive, you don't, if you know something is wrong, if you know something is like that, you're on the right. And if you know you're on the right, you are able to speak loudly and proudly about it. But when you know your thought process is in the wrong, and you start to whisper around people when you see those people over there, when you have to whisper a way that you're speaking about something or someone, when you have to hide behind false facts and hide behind false things. You know that you're in like you're in a mind state that's like that isn't that you even yourself, even though you're unwilling to change, you're aware that you are in a mind state that is currently fading. So like even with like the meat industry, with the dairy industry, people, like it's harder for them to like speak as loud and proud because the science is coming out that like these industries are actually not only harming us but harming the planet.
Just harm coming in many different directions. So what I want to say before I go further is that to gauge if something is wrong, if you could not bear to have it done to you or to someone you love, it doesn't matter what species it is. You don't do that then. That's your gauge.
Yeah.
If you couldn't bear to be trapped in a small cage, or you couldn't bear to have things done to you without anesthesia, if you couldn't bear, like if your mother cow, all of her babies are taken away and she mourns and cries for them, the babies are they don't know what to do without their mother. And if they're a male, they will be killed. It could be in front of their mother, or it could be a little bit later. They might but they're going to be put in an isolation area and given watered down milk so humans can take the milk that was meant for that baby. But that male calf will die, and his life will be very short, and it will be brutal. The females will be put in isolation, and they will follow in the mother's footsteps, and they will become a milk slave. They will be, trapped in this life. They will be forcefully impregnated. They will be have their babies ripped away. They will get infections because they will be hooked to the machine so much. And it's a life of entrapment. It's a life. It's no life. And when the mother cannot give any more milk, there are videos, and I encourage you to please watch them. That mother will be treated with the most disrespect, as if she hasn't faced every disrespect possible already. At the end, when they're ready to take her life, I've seen them picked up with industrial equipment, and it's very cruel.
Well, and it's kind of speaking to the point that you just made. When you look at horror movies that are produced and they actually utilize tactics that they use on animals, they will use those same tactics on humans, and then people in the movie theaters are like closing their eyes. They're turning away, couples are like holding each other tight. These are things that when we see them in the context of like a Saw movie or something like that, we're like, oh my God, this is so brutal. And, it really just, with the age of social media, obviously, even with social media, it's easier to access information, but the abundance of information allows people to kind of get sucked into their little bubbles and not actually gauge or be exposed to a lot of new information, to where like, I know, like literally you and I can be sitting across, or like we can be sitting next to each other, and we will be on our Instagrams collectively, and your feed that you get is completely different than my sports and music dominated feed. And even though I support a lot of what you believe, and I, myself and Missy have talked about making these changes, not only for the betterment of ourselves, but also for the betterment of the world. And like, it's just, we get lost into like our own little thing. So like social media is both a positive and a negative, where like, yes, we can be exposed to it, but I think a lot of us choose to, even though we become aware of it at some point. There was the whole branding campaign around Super Size Me, and like places like this, they really like showcase like what fast food does and where fast food comes from, and like how poorly the food is treated and how poorly it's processed, and like all of this stuff. And like that shocked people. Yeah. And other movies and shows have come out that kind of showcase not only the horrors of of the farming and agriculture industry, but also like companies like a Chipotle who are trying to move and take things into a more positive direction with introducing sofritas and making sure that vegans and vegetarians have actual options that,
Right.
and obviously, they still have meat products, but they're making sure that it's not as cruelly raised as what a standard like Purdue chicken is going to come from.
Well, a lot of that, you'll hear that in the media, and then when the investigators, go out from PETA or some other organization, these undercover,
and
they
you
will
have to
find out that they'll say, oh, we're just humanely doing this and that, and they will.
Well, you still have to be like, and don't get me wrong here. Like PETA wouldn't be the like independent organization I would send out for an independent study.
Well,
everything, just like you wouldn't want a Republican trying to deal with a Republican.
Yeah.
You don't want someone who goes in with a skewed bias to look at things. But obviously,
well, they're taking.
But obviously, like I worked at Chipotle when we shut down an entire farm ecosystem
Right.
because it was discovered by one of those
Organizations,
one of those organizations that they were mistreating their animals. And like, I mean, we were short on food for months on end, and people were pissed. And it was like me as a kitchen manager, I had to explain these farmers were not doing what they were contractually obligated to do. They were not treating the animals properly.
Well, sometimes
and Chipotle has a stance on that.
Yeah.
They have a stance on where they stand on how they source their ingredients. And obviously, it's really encouraging now to see like Beyond Meat at a place like Hardee's and Carl's Jr. Did you ever think in your life that a Hardee's Carl's Jr. would have an option for a vegan?
See, and something, and I know you didn't even realize it when you were saying it. I think said something about like how the ingredients are treated or how the food was treated, and instead of animals.
Well, and that's
like,
how the food industry. That's like as a kitchen manager, like
right.
That's how I'm instructed to speak with customers.
Right.
Everything that is a part of my kitchen
right.
is an ingredient to something.
So I think we've all been. Everybody has been, for almost everybody, unless you were raised by vegan parents. Everybody has been conditioned since they were a baby.
Desensitized, I think, would be a really good word for it, right? Desensitized,
conditioned. If you think about
and
all
even
the
given,
let's
even
think
given,
about
even given like an ignorance is bliss kind of approach where you're aware that this stuff is happening, and you are aware, and that was kind of my point with the like Super Size Me videos and like the reason I brought up Chipotle and my work there is because there was that one that came out in the like early 2010s that was very popular that kind of featured Chipotle, I think, and like it became popular because it was showcasing two different sides of the industry, and people were talking about it, and people talk about it, but the problem is that even if we are aware of it, because you were just talking about the conditioning, the desensitizing, we kind of try to kind of like go back to the ignorance is bliss kind of thing, where like you try to forget the craziness, and you'll joke like, and I know like I made these jokes, and I know a lot of other people have made these jokes that like you like before McDonald's and Taco Bell and Wendy's like switch their chicken nuggets over to all white meat chicken, like everyone was like, the big joke online and in person was like it's all like gooey and all it is, and like that's true, but like it got turned into a joke, it got turned into a desensitized joke. And I think now though we're in an era where like those jokes are the truths behind those jokes are no longer acceptable.
Right. And a lot of it is still going on and will for a long time. But, the conditioning we go through is in the baby food aisle, you've got lamb ground up into mush. You have you start the baby
ground
on
lamb.
Yeah,
Ew.
in baby jars.
I've heard of carrots and peas.
No,
there's
there's meat in those baby food jars. I mean, and then as soon as so we.
I don't know how I feel.
Yeah, we start. I mean, we start at the beginning of life. And we think we have all been taught that, every meal must include meat, must include bacon, stacked up turkey club, whatever,
Yeah.
and it's like holidays, and the odd thing about holidays, we're celebrating life. We're celebrating family at, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And what are we doing? We are,
Funny enough, you just mentioned 2 out of the 3 major holidays in America were Christian holidays, which we're not supposed to be, favoriting holidays.
well,
but
over
like,
Christmas.
we're not supposed to be favoriting. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay,
Where
but I'm just saying some of the major holidays, whatever it might be, or whatever religion it might be, a lot of holidays and family gatherings, like
I mean, everything has been capitalized.
the tortured, murdered animal is the centerpiece on the table.
Yeah, I mean, you
so
look at.
we've actually taken a life to celebrate life.
I think the only major holiday that doesn't include mass amounts of eating is St. Patrick's Day. Really,
mass amounts of drinking there.
mass amounts of drinking, but I mean, and there could be food. You got the drunk 2 a.m. food at the end of it, but like even you look at a Labor Day, you look at a Memorial Day, you look at a Thanksgiving, a Christmas, and Easter. You look at what other major holidays do we have? We have Hanukkah.
There are, you might not want to talk about, and I don't want to specify any religion. There are a lot of religions who still are doing animal sacrifice. There's just,
that's very true.
You name it, and there's a reason a human will find a reason to dismember an animal, and we're at the dawn of a new age now, where we have knowledge that we never had before. We know now that all protein can be derived from plants, plant-based foods. We have more things flooding onto the market literally daily that replace milk, eggs, meat, leather, fur, feathers, all the things that we take from animals. We have, there are cruelty-free substitutes now. So there's no reason to murder and dismember and eat the body parts of a corpse. And that's what we've been doing.
So, and that brings up a good point. Like, I went into Kroger the other night, and I came out actually very impressed because you don't typically see like an entire, like, I know now, like, some of these Krogers have like entire sections. They section off the organic, they section off the vegan foods. But it's in like those like quarter aisles where they're like 4 quarter aisles kind of put into like a square box, and it's just real quick little aisles. Like the Kroger I went in the other day, it was just like there was an entire frozen section, like an entire singular frozen section of vegan and vegetarian options. Then right across was the dry section of all the organic, vegan, and vegetarian options that were non-perishables. And it was actually really impressive to see outside of a Whole Foods, outside of a turnip truck. You don't see that a lot in like recent years. And now we have moved. I believe you shared a photo the other day where it showed like the milk section like 10 years ago and the milk section now, where it was like it went from all dairy with like one little sliver of like oat milk and cashew milk and stuff, almond milk, and now it's like half the section, half of the whole milk section was alternatives to dairy products, including creamer. Like, I love the Silk Sweet and Creamy. That is my, I honestly don't want any other creamer. I've actually tried going back to other creamers and they taste nasty. I've tried drinking 2% milk when Dad didn't have any, when he had too much left and he didn't want it. I tried, and I took one sip and I was like, this is kind of like, eh. And like, it doesn't do it for me now. And because I've been, I haven't been, I went vegetarian, I think it was like in college or something for like 4 months, or no, it was high school. For like 4 months I went vegetarian. And then it was around that time period that I actually weaned off of utilizing milk. And actually my, for the last almost decade, that's been my consistent, is that I can actually speak on, is that I have turned to, outside of ice cream, I will admit I've eaten ice cream, and now they've got really dope, really delicious ice cream. We had that s'mores that vegan oat milk s'mores ice cream the other day. Holy shit.
That's good.
It was so good. And it just, that's one of the things I can say, like, I have stuck to consistently that kind of gives me hope in the fact that I know that, when I make the same change that you did, that like I can pull it off, because I know I've done it before. I think the only reason I gave up the vegetarianism at the time I did was a result of, we went to like B-dubs with Adam or something.
Yeah. Well, then there
otherwise I probably would be still, like,
there really were not many choices at that time like there are now. I mean, literally,
I got to tell you, your fake bacon back then was like awful. Still kind of bad today.
Yeah, and that
that hasn't improved in the last decade.
Morningstar is still making that with egg and milk in it. So,
are they?
Yeah, so I don't even use that anymore.
Shame on you, Morningstar. Shame on you.
Well, they're trying. I heard they were trying to transition, and some of their products are 100% vegan now. They're transitioning, but I just want to say that because of the deep conditioning, like milk does a body good, and
it makes your bones strong,
and it's macho to eat the meats, and all that.
Eat the 32 ounce
and there's
T-bone.
Yeah, there's so much marketing. There's so much conditioning from our families. There's the whole holiday thing, and so I'm not here to guilt trip anybody, but a relative asked me, well, I noticed you're posting things about this. Why don't you just let people just go make their minds up for themselves? And I'm like, because if somebody else didn't post, I wouldn't have seen the truth. And without the truth, you cannot make the right decision or a good decision. That's up to you to see what's really out there, what's really going on, and then connect your food choices, your cosmetic, your clothing, your furniture choices. A lot of this comes from animals, and so much. And then you can say, wait a minute, I had no idea. This is what the animals really were going through. And connect your heart, your mind, and your soul to your food choices, to the clothes you wear. A lot of cosmetics are not only have animal ingredients, but they're tested on animals. They're just blinded because they have things thrown into their eyes to see, what if this happens to a person? What damage will it do when they're done with the animals who live a god-awful life, in the labs, and just handled and tortured, and, they're given diseases and whatever, in the name of science, what have you, and then they're murdered normally after that. But, you can choose to buy your cosmetics that have no animal ingredients, that are not tested on animals, and anything you want to do. And we just have the blessing of all this, like, just massive information on the internet.
It's insane to me that, like, even makeup, you have to mark makeup as vegan. Like, you wouldn't imagine that, like, that the makeup.
Well, like, eyelashes are made from minks, so that minks are put in these very tiny cages for their entire life. They're bred so that they can be murdered, and a lot of people are wearing mink eyelashes, which they don't even realize it, maybe, that an animal had to die. And
they think it was just synthetically processed in some sort of.
You can try a better option and make sure you're not.
And that kind of brings up, so the point of like the relative messaging you about, why are you posting? Let people make their own decisions. Like, you shouldn't have to tell people. Well, from the beginning, we're told what we should and shouldn't do. And that's that's the influence, regardless if you're born into a meat-eating household, a vegan household.
Most people are born into meat-eating
household. It's a primary thing.
And they're pushing, that agenda is pushed very strongly.
And even if it's not, and it's really not and to some people, it's not even like they're pushing this. They're not sitting there like an evil mastermind, like I'm gonna push this.
No, but I mean, we're also conditioned
but,
with
you know,
it.
and that's
That
where
it's like it's like absurd to
our
some people.
great grandfather was a rancher,
Yeah,
and then the great grandfather moved to Dallas, and then that father moved to New York. And even though you know your family's now in New York, and you might have progressive views and all of this, you still come from this family who, you know, a couple generations back was this rancher dude out in the Midwest. And so your entire life, your father, your father, you know, your mother might have come from the same thing. Like these people are like, it's not like this evil, crazy agenda. Who like,
well,
even
yeah,
if you,
and
even if you
I
live
didn't
in
mean
a,
that. It's just that the whole world practically views eating animals as this is totally normal. This is totally acceptable. This is totally okay. And it's deep conditioning. It's deep brainwashing and conditioning. Is somebody's, I mean, the people that are selling milk, it's a planned strategy.
So
but for the families, it's just doing what families do.
So how do you feel then?
Known.
So how do you feel then when, you know, when we are going through, say, biology class in school, and this is in our curriculum, our government mandated curriculum that kids have to go through? Every science class has the same pyramid where, you know, they'll have the eagle at the top, and then the snake is above all the other rodents, and then the rodents and the insects, and then they have the other triangle next to it where it's like they put the human at the top, and then they put the lion, and they put the, you know, they put the alligator, and like they put them all in these categories of like your primary, like, and they teach you, like, it is taught in school that,
and by the Food and Drug Administration, you know,
well, and
whatever.
And so how do you feel then when, and it was a conversation I just had earlier in regards to history class, that a lot of history in regards to America has been nationalized. Same with the food industry. It's like when we go into biology, when we go into science, and they're teaching us about the cycle of life and the food pyramid, it's the humans sit at top, and like you might as well, the image they have is like this scrawny little white guy, but really it's more or less just a dude with a gun, you know, like it might as well be, because that's, you know, that's more, well, I don't know if that's more representative,
what's
but like,
happening
so
right
how do you feel then, like when it's being put into our mind that just like the lion hunts the gazelle, because we're above the lion, we're above everything else?
Well, okay, so I'm going to get to that. I just want to back up for just a minute. When I was trying to say, you know, and I did say, you know, I'm not trying to guilt trip anyone. I'm trying to get information out there, because the animal animal agriculture industry does not want people to see what's going on within those industries, and that's why they have tried to put these ag gag laws out there, so that people can be, instead of them being criminally charged for how they're treating the animals, the person that ends up criminally charged is someone who went in and exposed them. That person might be at risk for criminal charges, but those are ag gag laws, which people have to fight. You know, the animal activists are working with Food and Drug Administration about, you know, their food chart, you know, the food pyramid. And, you know, what is on the food pyramid that is being worked on.
Well, and there's a difference between the food pyramid and the
hierarchy.
The hierarchy of the animals, and like the human hunts the bird hunts the snake hunts the mouse hunts the bug.
Okay, and so there are things, we all know what sexism is. We all know what racism is.
Yeah.
A term people might not be as familiar with is speciesism.
Can you explain that a little bit to us? Because I know it's kind of,
it's
even for me, I'm kind of new to.
Speciesism is the assumption of human superiority, leading to the exploitation of animals.
So that kind of that term is more or less defining that food chain pyramid. And of, you know, we are at the top, so we're above it all.
And just remember, when you're talking about the isms like sexism, racism, etc., remember speciesism, because and a lot of people think, oh, vegans think they're better, think this, think that. Actually, most vegans are doing it because they do, in fact, do not think they're better than any other living species on this planet. You know, we're not in it for that we think we're so superior or anything. Just our hearts and minds have been opened up, and we've seen the truth. And once you see the truth, you cannot just sit silently with that truth, because if you're silent, you're complicit still.
Well, and that truth is kind of backed, and not kind of, it is backed by science, that things inside the animal and agricultural communities are actually, you know, a lot of people are vegans, are vegetarians, and are converting to veganism as a result of the science that's happening. We just watched a documentary. You kind of spoke to the protein aspect of it, and I'm going to kind of gear us a little bit towards some of the documentaries that we have watched to kind of reference. You mentioned about the proteins. We watched The Game Changer on Netflix a few nights ago that actually was a representation of all the athletes, the different athletes that utilize that, and it speaks on the animals actually the only purpose that they serve in the food chain line, because obviously animals serve other purposes within nature. They naturally within nature, they serve other purposes, just like, you know, cows grazing on grass helps release carbon dioxide into the soil, which we'll talk about, because that's another thing that we just watched. You know, the animals themselves are only middlemen to the protein.
Well, because they're eating, people that think, oh, you know, like, eat your meat. Like we were watching some of the weightlifters or whatever, eat your meat so you'll be strong as an ox. And the ox only, you know, the ox does not eat meat. It eats plants, grass, whatever. And, you know, the strongest, the biggest, the longest living animals on this planet, definitely the strongest and the biggest, are, you know, plant eaters. And
all except for the crocodile. That motherfucker just won't die.
Yeah.
They've been around for billions of years, and that motherfucker just is like, I'm chilling, bro. I'm going to kick it down here in Florida. And did you see that, just off course, did you see that giant alligator that like popped up in the Florida community last summer? Yo, I got to show you that video. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack. That image popped in my head. That alligator was massive.
But one thing I want to say that, even after all these years as a vegetarian, so then I decided I'm going to make myself look at the egg industry and dairy industry videos. Mm-hmm. And these are things that might be way, 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 way in the back of your mind, if it even enters your mind. What is going on in these industries? I had no idea really that billions and billions of male chicks are murdered on the first day of their lives because they're not in the egg industry. They're garbage. They're of no use. They roughly handle these chicks, and they're put on a conveyor belt for the most part. This is usually what happens, and they're just, you can see videos. They're chirping. They're going down the conveyor belt, and they are brutally dropped into a meat grinder alive. And none of us, I was saying this to Nick, most people don't want to really hurt an animal. So why are you paying other people to do it? You would not put a bunch of chicks in a blender at home and turn the blender on. But, and there are other ways the chicks are killed, but that's the most quick way or whatever. This industry does this
mass efficiency way that they claim is like the way that they have to do it.
On a smaller farm, it's very typical. You can see these videos to see that what I'm saying is the truth. They'll put live chicks in a giant garbage bag and just tie it and let them suffocate. Another method is just to throw them in water and let them drown. So I looked at that and I'm like, I had no idea, and I cannot be a part of this anymore. Yeah. That is it for me. And then I did not know that what some of the standard practices are with cows, with dairy, there's a high price that the animals pay for your cheese, your milk, your ice cream.
All those smiling
Whatever.
cows on the Wisconsin and
That's
California labels are
That's fake. That's all. That's all marketing. But if you watch the videos, I've seen on smaller farms. I have seen a male cow killed right in front of its mother with a sledgehammer. But these are babies. Most of the food that you're eating that's put on your table comes from babies. Most of the lambs, cows, whatever you're eating, that is not a very old animal. That they do other terrible things, like to the chickens. They have ways to make the chickens grow way beyond what they should. Their legs cannot support it. They fall over. The chickens are in very, very crowded buildings. They can't even barely move, and they're standing in their own waste. And they're diseased. They're usually walking on top of other chickens that died in this hell that they live in. So, then when they're taken to the slaughterhouse, they're strung upside down. They're dipped in an electrocution water. They're electrocuted in water.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to have at least a stunning effect. And then
And you think that
they go right next to. Then they have the blades after they're dipped in the electrocution water. They're on like an assembly line, and they're just being pulled across the blade, and it's just a lot of some animals for leather to take their fur. There's anal electrocution, and some of them are just hung upside down. Like if they're skinning them for their fur, or their skins or whatever, they'll turn them. They'll hang them upside down. And I've seen video of animals skinned alive and thrown in a pile, and watched that it took another 10 minutes of agony before they died. I mean, you have no idea what kind of violence you're participating in. And I want to bring awareness, because up to 70, look what we're living through right now. And a lot of people want to blame, like, oh, somebody ate a bat or something, or it's the wet markets or the bush meat. No, it's all of it. It's
the culmination of generations of acceptance of this, and then it's the actual industry itself is causing mass pollution, which is in turn affecting the wildlife that's out there, because our waterways are polluted, our ground, our topsoil is polluted. Well, and just as and we'll again, like we watched a lot of documentaries this week in order to have a good conversation about this from my side as well, so I can understand some perspective. And like even bugs themselves adapted to pesticides, and those pesticides had to keep adapting, just as there have been 6 mass extinctions, as Greta Thunberg pointed out, we're in the midst of our 7th. And the point of those mass extinctions is because the earth became unbalanced and it needed to rebalance itself. And just like these animals, when they are exposed consistently to toxins and to poisons, they themselves, over time, slowly are going to change their own internal. So this bat may be drinking bad water or something that even if caught out in the wild, if they're in polluted air, the polluted air, China and US are the 2 biggest air pollutants. If you're in polluted air, polluted waters, and then all of a sudden this dude captures you and eats you, bat, squirrel, whatever it is, let's not just, throw out, it's a bat in China, bat, a squirrel, a deer, anything that y'all are going out here and doing. If you are participating in this mass industry, that's also farming. If you're participating in an industry that does not care about the fact that everything around you is being polluted, because 70% of everything that's being grown is grown for the animals that are being bred for us, and then we only get a little bit of vegetables, mostly animals, and those animals are mistreated. The waste and everything is going straight into our waterways and polluting it entirely.
Animal
and
waste.
then now these animals slowly are, they're almost becoming giant walking poison pills themselves when you hunt them and then eat your squirrel soup or your bat soup or whatever. And so now we're here.
And these animals, a lot of these animals, if left alone, they're way out there and they're in their own habitat. They're out there living their lives, okay? Yeah. And then, that could be a swamp somewhere. Who knows where that is? But they're out there living their own lives, and they have diseases that are kind of specific to them.
Yeah.
They're not passed around in the human world, okay? Until we go bother them, handle them, murder them, trap them, put them in filthy conditions, crowd them, and we keep handling and touching them and murdering them and eating them.
Well,
and when we do that, that's when zoonotic crossover happens.
Yeah.
And up to around 75% of all pandemics are zoonotic crossover, where you just keep bothering that animal, and eventually what is in that animal that was never in a human before jumps over to the human. The next stage is the human gets it. Now, is it going to jump just to that little group of humans directly because of their direct contact? That's how it starts out. But then once it starts jumping human to human, and then it's just like the coronavirus has, now we have these other strains. It's more aggressive strains coming out. And what we're going to do is deny and ignore and not educate ourselves, not make changes that we could make. And there's a chance that, there's more pandemics coming, and there's been many in the past, bird flu, swine flu, on and on and on. And, from zoonotic crossover. The other thing, even without that's horrible. That's so horrible, and look how many people got sick and died globally just from coronavirus. But think about this. Usually the number one killer is the heart attack.
Yeah.
And it's from meat. It's from eggs, dairy, meat. This is where the heart attacks are coming from. So
yeah, let alone just anything hereditary that might add to it. When your entire life are eating things that your body isn't technically meant to like consume as a result of gaining those proteins and those microbes and those things, it's
animal cholesterol.
Yeah, you are exacerbating the problem that you may already have been born with. You could be born with the greatest heart ever, but all you do in your entire life is meat and dairy, meat and dairy, meat and dairy. You're getting your meat and threes.
Well, it's clogging your arteries. It's
you
the
could be
number
born.
one,
You could be born with a heart defect, but eat vegan and maintain a really healthy heart, because you are cutting out the middleman. You are cutting out those bad enzymes and things that are that's the only thing you're getting by eating animals. Is the bad enzymes.
Yeah. Well, the protein the animal is getting, like let's say the cow, they're getting that from the grass. Yeah. You can just eat. I'm not saying eat grass, but
you can go ahead and smoke it. Just I ain't saying to go eat it.
But I'm just saying, and there are just, to make anyway. If you are consuming animals, you are contributing to pandemics. Yeah. You are contributing to heart attacks. The number one killer. You are participating in, and I beg you to watch, if you will, watch the videos and see what level of cruelty and violence that you're participating in. And then just, you have to have a conversation then with yourself, do I want to be part of pandemics? Do I want to be part of heart attacks is just the main one I'm talking about. There are a lot of other health consequences in addition to that that's coming from meat, dairy, eggs, etc. And then, and just say, do I want to be part of this, or do I want to be part of something that's, that is going somewhere in a new direction that, I saw a meme the other day that vegans are pioneers in a new world that's going to be a less violent one.
Well, and I don't even think, and what's crazy is kind of circling back to the Game Changers movie that we watched, or documentary that we watched, veganism isn't a pioneering thing. It's a rediscovered pioneering.
Right.
Because the fucking Spartans were vegans.
Yeah, they said they did. They've also, with advanced technology, they said at first they thought like some, they were examining, what was found with, a skeleton from way back, like what were they eating? And they're like, it was assumed they were eating meat, but it's because, bones are going to last. If they ate some plants, those are going to disintegrate, and they thought your bones and your body mass was going to be weak if you didn't eat the big ox. And because they were just finding animal bones near them, that's what they thought, or whatever. But they realized that with the new technology, they were actually like grinding, down like bone and whatever to see what were they really eating. And it was a lot of plant-based stuff. But, in a future video, I'd like to talk more about, not only watching the videos of what's really happening to the animals, but you've got a lot of like vegan influencers out there on YouTube and Instagram, like Badass Vegan or I Am Tabitha Brown. I hope I'm saying this lady's name right. Mina, and her last name is Rome. And
like Rome?
I guess that's how she says
Mina
it,
Rome?
like Mina Rome, I guess. But she, I see her on YouTube a lot, and she just does a lot of things from scratch, some interesting things. She's got, I think she has a very soothing voice, but these are just a few people. There are so many out there, so many documentaries to watch, and then, to educate yourself. And then if you decide you want to try it, I know that some of them will say, we're here for you at the beginning of this journey. We'll give you all the menus you want, all the support you want, all the information you want. And, you have these support systems out there.
And can I point out, when you were listing off the things that people are participating in as a result of being a part of the big
I left something out. I think you're going to hit on it.
You left something out.
That's pretty big.
And that's very huge. And it's, I would like to circle around to it because I think two of the documentaries that we've watched recently really touched heavy on the actual environmental impact of it all. We look at global
climate change.
Yeah, when you participate. And I can't sit here and say like when you participate like I'm not also one of them. I mean, damn, I had a chicken pizza the other day. I've had McChickens and I don't eat I cut red meat out of my diet years ago as a result of my body just not feeling right, because we really aren't meant to process red meat, like let alone meat at all. Our bodies process red meat the slowest, and people say like, oh, we'll eat red meat because it'll make you feel fuller longer. No, it's because our bodies are consuming something that really is not supposed to be there.
But I think you have made a big effort toward over the years to try to choose a lot. I know you're choosing a lot of vegan products.
I would say outside of
and vegetarian.
Outside of a bag of frozen chicken from Publix, or outside of like a fresh thing of chicken for, like a barbecue chicken and veggies meal, I would say most of my diet is fairly vegetarian, and really my only, the thing that I have to break, which is the same struggle you had earlier, which is eggs and dairy, which, I mean, just eggs are something that got introduced very recently to myself.
Brand, Eggs. Yeah.
Just Eggs just got introduced to me. And, and I think
those are awesome.
And like, they taste really good. You throw some Cajun in there, like while you mixing it, and like that shit tastes fantastic. Like,
Yeah, whatever you want. You can just make an omelet or
yeah. I mean,
nice
it cooks really well
Use
as long
it in
as you don't have
baking.
as long as you don't have a shitty pan.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't stick. But
it's the color and the consistency of eggs, and it's close enough in flavor.
yeah.
That it's really
But
one of the products I like.
but I would say a very high percentage of my like actual diet itself is along a vegan and vegetarian diet.
It's moving that way.
And myself and Missy, like I think even said earlier on this podcast, and like we've talked about before, me and Missy have in fact talked about moving our lifestyle to completely vegetarian and eventually completely vegan. And not only because it would help us get healthier, but also, we're looking at the fact that like we want to live long, healthy lifestyles. And if we want a long and healthy life for kids and grandkids and to see, if we ever get floating cars that, drive themselves, we have to continue to, we bought a soda stream to make our own like lemon lime water at home. We bought, we only use silk creamers, to drink our coffee with. We're slowly phasing out snacks and snack foods, and we're looking more into like protein bars and organic like fruit balls. And
there's a lot of those that also have packed in some protein into those bars.
Well, and I think that's the thing that is different about I'm going to circle back to climate change, but I think the thing that has changed significantly about the perception people still have, the old school perception of what people still have, is they tried a veggie burger in like 2003 and they were disgusted by it, and then they haven't gone back since. And the funny part about that is the industry has changed
a lot.
If you cook a Beyond Meat burger, I remember cooking like a Beyond Meat burger and a Beyond Meat sausage, or it was Impossible or Beyond. It was one of the two, and like it actually kind of ran like it was running blood, and you actually were like, I don't know if I can eat that because it looks too real.
Yeah, and sometimes they
and I charred it. Like I charred it like a really good fucking char on it. We put the Daiya cheese on it and like some ketchup and mustard, and that's what we had for dinner that day.
Yeah.
And like that shit was fire.
Now, you can do so much with it. And there's, if you don't like exactly the taste of this one, they've got 5-6 other like burgers that they've made, and that you can try. But
and I had Dad when I was staying up there with him for a little while. We stopped at a Hardee's, and they have Impossible burgers, and I ordered one, and I told Dad, I said, "Hey, try this with me." I'm like, I'm trust me, this tastes just like a regular burger with the tomato and the ketchup and the mustard.
Did he like it?
He loved it.
Yeah.
He was like, it's missing that the juiciness I'm used to, but like he's like, this isn't bad at all. And I said, no, I made biscuits and gravy. My dad, he loves his Southern biscuits and gravy. I made him biscuits and gravy using vegan, like a vegan sausage roll, and I crumbled it up. Me and Missy sauteed the sausage and all of that. He had no idea. He didn't look at the packaging or nothing. Me and Missy cooked it. We made gravy with almond milk. We did everything as a vegan breakfast. And he ate that shit. I had no idea. And I said, how'd you like that? He said, it was good. It was really good. He's like, what'd you add to it? It had like a really nice, interesting flavor. I said, it was all vegan.
Yeah.
And that blew his mind,
right.
because he is also a symptom of and a participant within the same cycle of like meat. We've right. The Arby's, we've got the meat. But let me digress. We left out one of the things in that list, which was when you participate in the giant farm and agriculture industry,
animals.
You are participating in climate change. you are participating in actually hurting the earth.
There's
And-
deforestation in order to make.
Well, yeah. So there's
one thing.
So there is an entire slew of things that go into it that people don't realize.
In order to make room for a gigantic animal
Well,
agriculture.
yeah, and so
for one thing.
people look when I say global warming, what's the first thing that you would think? Not as you and I would think. What would be the first thing you would think as like basic human being in their like 20s or 30s?
Well, you think of car emissions.
You think of car emissions. You think of
Factories.
Yeah. You think of semi trucks. You think of trains.
But you
think
don't
of
realize
planes.
how much animal agriculture contributes to that.
Yeah,
You don't
and
know.
so that kind of takes me to the point that I want to introduce. Well, we watched. Not only did we watch "Kissing the Soil,"
Kiss the ground.
"Kiss the Ground," which had Woody Harrelson narrating, which was actually really cool.
It was okay. Wasn't. I mean, for me,
I found that one to be actually I had a
very good points.
I had a
in it.
really good conversation with Ryan this morning. I had a really good conversation with him in regards to that because he grew up out in farmland Tennessee, and so he understands that culture. He understands that mentality, and he's like, and he understands the science behind it because he too has also researched it. And you know, when we are partaking in this giant animal agriculture system, our entire crop, 70% of all of the crops that we grow in the United States don't feed us.
For animal feed.
They are just for animal feed. If we... And so what was the guy from the USDA department that goes around and educates people on topsoil?
What's his last name? Archuda?
I think so.
I can't remember.
I can't remember his
like
name.
that.
But he goes around into
Educating,
farmland and he educates farmers on like what it means, what the actual impact is of their operation and how their standard operation of tilling and pesticides and more tilling and more pesticides and tilling and pesticides and is leading to dirt and not soil. And what he showed, what was it, like a map of the CO2 emissions?
Yes, and it was showing that when the tilling is going on, he said tilling is really destroying the soil, turning it into dirt.
Turns it into dust because it releases the CO2 in the water. He said it that's what creates even what created the giant dust bowl.
And then so NASA, from space is showing like you can see what's going on the Earth with what they're filming, and you can see like purple and red areas, which this is happening during tilling. And this is when the ground then is releasing carbon
at extreme rates.
And you really want that. You want that in the ground, and
you want the soil to be healthy because the soil will actually absorb.
I think we should do a whole other thing just on that.
No, I mean this is this is all a part of it, man. Like
Right.
like this is because as a part of the soil. The reason that most of it is happening that way is a result of farming and tilling for animal feed. And like if you eliminated 70% of all of our farmland because we didn't have to feed these massive herds of animals. Say you eliminated 60% and 10% was for just normal farms with like grazing, like homebred. You could raise them all the way until they naturally die. And they're just there literally to graze on the grass and help fertilize the soil. If we cut it all the way down and that's all that animals were there for, were to naturally roam and live to help balance the ecosystem of these farmlands for the crops and for the soil. If you're down to 10%, our carbon emissions are like insane. Like our carbon emissions that we are now not kicking out, but actually able to absorb. The soil absorbs 10%. What was it? 10 times more carbon than plants and grass. Like, it's the soil itself that really can save us. But
when you pull all of this together, I think it's we've come to a time where we know better now. We know information, and that we never had before to make these better decisions. But, if you want to teach your children nonviolence and compassion, it's going to start with what's in front of them on the table. And I think if you can be anything in this world, you know how the saying goes, what the saying is. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. And that's you can't do better than that, than to teach someone to live a life of compassion and to make choices that definitely are connected to your heart, your mind, and your soul.
Yeah,
And
that's some powerful shit, man.
Because you do not have to be who your family taught you to be. You can be anybody you want to be, and you don't have to live with their choices that you were indoctrinated with. You can be your own person, and you are not your family's traditions. You don't have to be that either, and you can still just and out of love for your family, teach them a better way, better health,
Facts.
better compassion, better way to live. And how much time do we have left?
We can just go as much as we want, man.
Oh, I just want to say, like,
that's why I was saying, like, we don't have to, like, we ain't got to stop. Like, if we want to talk about, because, like, we didn't really dive much into the soil thing. We haven't dived a whole lot into.
I don't remember all the data about the soil thing. And you probably do more than I do.
So I actually got really into that one, and it was actually really inspiring to see. But yeah, this would be a good time for a water break. So let's get some water.
Okay,
and then come
good.
back.
Okay,
cool. What it do, Ma? We are back from our water break.
Yes.
So just kind of picking up where we left off. So like the facts inside of that soil thing was kind of the gist I got from it was that, one of the most shocking things that they told us in that is that we have 60 harvests left. Now, mind you, they probably filmed that in 2019. It came out in 2020.
Yeah.
I imagine they filmed it in like the 2018, 2019. Something like the 60 harvests left would probably, because of how big that information is, I imagine that to be one of the last bits of information that they did record to make sure that it was as accurate as possible based on when the actual documentary was coming out, which was 2020. So imagine that in 2080, at our current pace, and at the fact that the rate of humanity is growing, the demand on food is growing, which means that the demand on growing food is going to grow, which would mean even at our current pace, we have 60 harvests left. If we speed that up, that's potentially before 2080 that we are completely out of topsoil and we have no way of growing food. So like that was one of the biggest things I took away from that documentary, Kissing the Ground, is that because of tilling, the significant amount of destruction happening to the topsoil itself, the amount of CO2 and water that it's losing turns it into dust and it goes away. And it's damaged, it's broken, and that leads to desertion where the ground is drying up and becoming desert-like. And I thought it was really it was cool to also see the holistic rancher, as he called himself, that he showed his land and his neighbor's land that was basically outside of random weeds that were able to sprout up. It was basically dead. And he showed and they, along with him, talked about the stats of having a farm that grows one agriculture, whether it's corn or whether it's soy or beans or, whatever, if you grow one thing, you grow and then it's done. And then you're empty for many a day. And then you're making no money on that land because it's got to heal. And then you have to come back and grow something else. You have to till it, tilling.
They don't want to till anymore. Tilling
No. What he's saying is the average farmer. I'm not talking about their farming. He has a non-tilling tiller that just rolls along the ground just to kind of push a little bit of topsoil onto the actual, onto the seed rather than like actually digging into the dirt and ripping it up and moving it around like that. Well,
and it's the tilling that's releasing too much carbon.
And that was what I was getting to, is that when you till, that it ruins your land. Well, this guy switched after losing his crops for like 5 years in a row, switched to becoming a holistic rancher who grows 19 different agricultures on his land. And he said he makes year-round, not just during his growing season, not just in harvesting season. He makes $100 profit per acre per day. And whereas the typical farmer, if you remove the subsidies for growing crops, all these farmers that are growing crops for the animal industry are making a ton of money, not because they are making money, not because what they're growing is valuable.
Or their crops, there are crop failures, and then we keep subsidizing.
Yeah, and we pay them off. Like if a hailstorm hits them, they get paid off. Where does that money come from? Our tax dollars. Yeah. And it is a $25 plus billion a year subsidy from our tax dollars. It is the largest welfare program. It's his words. He said, I refuse. You can't tell me that you are against welfare when you participate in the largest welfare system within the United States, when your crops, if you take away the subsidized version of $2.99 per pound or $5 per bushel, 20 per bushel you're being resubsidized, your actual profit on a per day per acre basis is 15 cents to $1. Mine is $100, and I'm on my own.
Well,
I take $0 from the government.
We didn't. That's right.
And that statement blew my mind when he said, y'all are all against, he said, a lot of you farmers are against welfare programs for these big cities that you don't want to pay into because you're not a part of a big city. You don't want to pay into that system, but yet you are fully taking advantage of millions of people who aren't a part of your ecosystem as a farmer, who they are subsidizing your land to be profitable when it's not. You either lose money or only make a slight margin of money yourself, and then the U.S. government is bailing you out because you're growing something they think you need to grow.
We didn't finish talking about the NASA, what was seen from NASA. So yeah.
So when they're tilling, it's releasing massive. It was like, what month was it? It was like
something like April or something. I don't know.
April. It was April.
I've never been a farmer.
It was so it started. So you saw the rise
in carbon.
You saw the rise in carbon in
very thick.
Late March, starting in May, getting thicker and thicker,
April.
And then all of a sudden in April, it was just
no. In March, April, I think is when the tilling was happening.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In late March. Sorry. In like late February, March, you saw the red getting thicker, and then all of a sudden it was explosion.
Like
the entire globe,
release of carbon.
The entire globe just covered in massive amounts of carbon dioxide
that was detected by the NASA
and the.
Filming, and then
the guy looked at everybody in the room. Mind you, these are all farmers, and was like, "What are we doing in April?" And all of them just kind of sat there like, "No, I don't know." It was like watching Forky ask a question. I don't know. It was like, dude, really, like, you know what it is. Like you can't deny when you are looking at evidence of carbon coming from Central America, where most of our agriculture farming is, from the California up and through the Western and Midwest, where all of our farming takes place, where the majority of it takes place. You look at it coming up and then moving up into Canada and into East America and then over the seas. You look at Africa, where their agriculture is. You look at China, where their agriculture is. You look at France, where their agriculture is. And you see just massive, just
release of carbon because of tilling, right?
Yeah, because that's when in the Northern Hemisphere along that line, when it's our season to till, they didn't even show South America, because South America is doing the same thing in probably, what would April be turned into for South America?
I don't know.
January, February, March, April. So but 4 months, I mean, flip it would be like...
But basically, I think the point they were trying to make is that look at the shot from that NASA has.
Yeah, this isn't something from the UK. This isn't from somebody else. This is our American
and
NASA.
It's saying, look what's going on when the crops start growing, because then when all the crops are growing, the carbon is returning to the ground, to the plants, and then so that massive, like, red and purple color that represented massive release of carbon, which you don't want, and then you see when all the crops start growing, the carbon image is pretty much gone.
It turns blue, which means that there's very little in the air, and that's
where it should be, in the ground.
Well, and that's the crazy thing, is we think that the carbon footprint of cars, of planes, of trains, of ships, of all these things that we believe is like, you would think in the summertime, more people are in cars. They're traveling. They're going about places. They're, they're out and about and they're traveling more. More planes are flying. All this is going on. You think in the summer, more is happening. It's hotter. More things are rising. All of that. No, because of the sheer amount, because our planes, because our farms are now covered in are covered in greenery, are covered in plants that are absorbing that CO2, putting it back into the plant's then giving us that oxygen. And then when the plant gets harvested, when the grass gets grazed by free range animals, now, and it's like what the lady was showing us, where when you pull up a piece of dirt with the grass root, when the grass gets grazed, the root then detaches and it falls, this root full, just completely full entirely of carbon, falls into the soil, and now is an organic matter that sits in the soil and fertilizes the soil. And I mean, just that graphic was amazing. And if I can find that graphic and actually put it on this video before I upload it, I will, because that's actually a really great graphic.
The other thing is that one good point they made about, that they were trying to make in the film, the point is that they've found the solution, and it's right in front of us. Yeah. Just like many other solutions that are right in front of us. We just have to, take courage and be committed to improving our lives, others' lives, the earth, and we can do it. And there's a solution. There has to be an educational process. People have to get on board and listen to what the solution is. But this is not doomsday. This can be fixed.
Yeah. I mean, right now, at the current trajectory we're at, we are moving towards a generation or two from now really, really struggling to figure out what they're going to do. The people, the kids that are being born right now, when they're adults and when they're elderly, the kids that are being born right now today, if in 60 years we have done nothing because our politicians, because our leaders have decided that their political future is much more important than the future of that they're minute. Let me use that word. That they're minute. That they're mediocre in the grand scheme of all history. Their time period within being a leader, whether it be politics, whether it be social reform, whether it be whatever it is, if our leaders, and not just here in America, all around the world, because when we watched that Greta documentary, it was leaders from all over the world poking fun at this little girl who,
but some who took her very seriously.
There was an entire UN conference of leaders who stood up and gave her a rousing ovation. But then you have leaders from very prominent places, including 45 from America, who just scoffed at it, laughed at it, turned it into a political joke.
Right. They don't want to hear it because they want to do business as usual.
And the first thing they turned to was, she's just 15. She's got Asperger's. Like, what does she know?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you sound like an ass. Like, you totally sound like an ass, bro, because we are looking at, we're looking at what can be changed. And when you putting the two, Kissing the Ground documentary and the Greta documentary.
Kiss the Ground
documentary and the Greta documentary together.
I am Greta. I just wanted to put in case somebody wanted to find it.
Yeah. It's on Hulu. Mom accidentally had me looking on Netflix, but it's on Hulu for sure. Really, if you put the two together, right, you see one thing that stood out, which was the COP conference or COP conference, or it was the global conference where the UN and countries from around the world came together to speak on climate, right?
Right.
And so the guy in Kissing the Ground was like, I have a solution. This 4 for every 1,000. What are you doing? Kiss the ground? French kiss the ground?
No, I'm just writing.
She's literally
kiss the ground because you keep saying
kissing the ground.
Kissing the ground.
I'm French kissing the ground, man.
Whatever.
I like sticking my tongue in the dirt.
Oh Lord.
Here, let me see that. just so I can visualize it. Did this literally?
You're just trying to take my paper from me.
Did this literally just fucking happened? That I have to be told how to fucking say things. There's your paper back.
You're talking to my paper rattling over
okay,
here.
so let me point this out. Let me point something very serious out, okay?
Okay.
We sitting here talking about global climate change. Mm-hmm. Part of that is trees. My mother has a Galaxy S10 Plus.
And sometimes I like to put my thoughts on a piece of paper still.
She won't use the Samsung Notes.
I do sometimes.
She won't use Google Drive.
I do.
She barely knows how to use Google unless she wants to WebMD because she thinks her or somebody around her is dying. And then she knows how to use Google. Then she knows how to use her phone. She will use an entire sheet of paper to correct me because I'm saying I'm making out with the ground.
Nick, you're hating on me because I was just trying to stop you from saying kissing the ground. And
why don't you want to be kissing the ground? It's Mother Earth.
So if people want to watch the movie, they can. Well, I'm sure if they type "kissing the ground," they'll find it anyway.
Very positive that a Google search of kissing the ground will bring up "kiss the ground" as a recommendation.
Or it could take them to some weird site called "Kissing the Ground." I don't know.
What do you think is going to be some weird?
Who knows?
Okay,
anyways. But you know what?
But my point. What was my? Oh,
are they going to stick with us this long?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Who knows, man? My point being though is that when you take the two together, they went to this conference. This French dude in the first documentary you watched, making out with the ground. The face she's giving me. She's doing this.
Two
Right now.
thumbs down.
When we watched that one, that's where he pitched his change, like his pitch, and everyone signed on except for United States and a couple other very conservative countries around the globe. And it showcases that, in America, we will make change if it makes money, but we will not make change if there's no monetary return in it, if there's no I benefit in, if the I in United States is not taken care of, it's not going to happen. So when we're like, hey, we need to eliminate the emissions happening on our grasslands, or hey, we need to stop growing so much, which means that, the animal industry is going to have to shrink so that we can grow less, and so we can spread our agriculture out. Even if it's over a time period, we need to change the way we behave as a way to heal our planet, as a way to maintain our humanity here on this planet. I think Greta said, like, we are acting like we have 5 spare planets. Like it's a, and for me, it's like, it's comparing it to like you drive recklessly in your car. You're running over sidewalks. You're driving through rocks and broken glass and all of this because you have spare tires at home. We don't have spare tires, but right now we are driving our planet through glass. We are driving our planet over rocks and sticks and nails and construction sites. If you think of our planet like a tire, that's what we're doing to it every time. Is like when we're tilling up the planet, and we're doing this as a result, literally just to feed animals, to make them fat, so that 2 or 3 more steaks can be taken off to feed some dude at Longhorn Steakhouse. Where we are, in effect, every steak you're eating, every chicken, every piece of pork you're eating is contributing to the fact that they think the industry is just, they can grow and grow and grow the industry, and in turn the industry is slowly shrinking our ability to recover. We're really the CO2 that's already out there is permanently up there for hundreds, if not thousands of years, right? Like that's what they were saying. And it's like, all we can do now is what was the terminology that one guy used, where it like down
I think we should
downturn or
no
downgrade
no. It was the term was down something, down pulling, I don't know, maybe something like that. And it's just talking about bringing the carbon back, finding ways to bring the carbon back. For my part, I would like to go ahead and make my closing statement for this podcast.
Oh, you trying to get out? You don't want to talk to me?
Well, yeah. Well, I just want to put my closing thoughts out here, and then I'll just hand it all over back to you. And I hope, this was the first time I've been able to speak to anyone about my passions, about treating the animals with all the respect that they deserve. Every living being as an individual, just like I am, just like you are. And these are not products. The problem with their mistreatment is they're treated like products and not living beings. But I hope something I said today inspired you, because humans, we all have superpowers. Our superpowers are so much more than what we give ourselves credit for. And with our superpowers, we can really change the world. We can change our own lives, and we can do something amazing as well for the animals, and get them, move toward getting them out of the hell that they're in. And it's exciting to be being on the cusp of technology and not just new knowledge, and hope I empowered somebody today to take a closer look and realize what all you can do, that you're a big part. We're all important. We're all a part of it.
Well, and it's conversations like this that really, that kind of start that change. You can't start change without first speaking up. It's like you can have an
And
idea that can change.
sharing.
You can have an idea that can change the world, but if you don't share it, the world's going to stay the same. And
Right.
and it doesn't just take the, it doesn't take the A-list actors or the politicians or anyone to tell us to do anything. We saw what Greta was able to do by just taking a Friday off of school one day, or it was a Tuesday or something, and then she decided to move it. She started to do it just on Fridays. Yeah. So you see what just one simple action can do, one simple motion.
Because she knew what she wanted to do.
Well, and I think it comes down to
stood her ground.
Well, and I think it will, and I mean, even before it grew into what everything that situation was, it grew locally first. People stopped. People talked. People wanted to be.
At first, she was just sitting alone, and then people kept coming by and talking
and more
to
and
her.
more people started skipping school and skipping
Got some
work.
news
and,
coverage.
And I mean, who was she? Who was she? Who was she? Like, before all of this, she was a human being.
Yeah.
She was a human being who started to research what was happening to the planet,
and it personally was haunting her.
Yeah, and I mean, now she was focused more on climate change than the agriculture aspect, but agriculture.
She's a vegan now.
Yeah, and I mean, and when you look at the effects of what traditional Western farming is having on the world, we are damaging it to a point of no return. We are basically, it's like putting your leg under a compactor and then somehow expecting your leg to be just as strong when it heals. No, it's not going to heal. When you till the earth, when you fill it with pesticides, when you pollute the water, when you genetically modify things and you take out the microbes that our body needs, we are mostly bacteria. We are like, what did the guy say? We're 99% bacteria, 1% human. Yeah. And I mean, we thrive off of microbes. And the reason why, he was saying why Roundup was losing all of its suits is because Roundup kills the microbes in the grass, in the soil. And if you accidentally inhale or swallow any amount, our body can take our microbes being hurt. It can take them being like punched around a little bit. But when you have something like a Roundup that specifically targets and kills those microbes, well, it's killing people, and it's permanently like maiming people internally because it's killing off literally who we are inside. And it just the ecosystem is always connected, right? Just like they were saying, when you don't have these barren lands, right now there's a massive drought happening in California and in the Midwest and in the Western states, and it's as a result of this like desertation.
Yeah, I think that's how you say it.
Where because the topsoil has been damaged for so many years and so many harvests and not been allowed to recover, not been allowed to heal, and just damaged and damaged and damaged. It's now just dirt. And doesn't exist. Like the nutrients in there doesn't exist, and that's what that's where we're sitting. And because they don't exist, there's no moisture, there's no water in the soil. The soil isn't capable of holding CO2 or water. So that evaporation that is supposed to happen there go up and into the clouds and into the ecosystem right above. We get, what did he say, like 60 or 70% of our like water cycle is from the ocean, and then it comes inland, but the other like 40% is from right here. If you're in like a landlocked state, like 40%, unless you're like Tennessee here, we get a lot of the weather patterns from the Gulf. The Gulf Coast gives us a lot of our weather patterns. But there are days we get rain that Louisiana does not. And that's the pattern. It comes up from Louisiana right there. Yeah. And it comes up this way, and then it goes to Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. That's our pattern here. Well, there are days that nowhere else is getting rain but right here. It's because the what did he call it? It was redistribution or something. Man, there's a lot of terminology.
Well,
I should have wrote some terminology down. But
I want to promise that if I do another one of these, I mean, we just kind of randomly watch these shows, and we hadn't
it wasn't random.
I mean, no, but I mean, it wasn't like I didn't have my notepad out. I didn't think I was going to be
we weren't like
definitely
studying.
talking about it in the podcast. And I promise if there's anything I ever bring up again, I'll make sure I watch the movie or the documentary like twice at least.
Make
and
sure
I'll
you're
take
not scrolling Facebook.
and I'll take my notes so that I am accurately giving exact verbatim, like quotes or facts from the show, but I can't do it today. Apologies for that.
No, and I mean, it's really, I mean, we're just here to have a conversation. I, in particular, found Game Changers and the soil
good, yeah.
very...
Kiss the ground.
Kissing the ground.
Kiss the ground. You said the soil.
Yeah, I found the soil.
And then you trailed off. So, like... Let me help you out here. And you looked a little lost too. Maybe he's trying to say.
I was trying to say the soil.
Kiss the ground again.
Oh shit, man.
The soil and then silence.
The silence of the soil.
Right.
Why does that sound like the fucking
Well, as you can
movie?
tell, we were very inspired by the documentaries.
Oh, man.
And this was the first time
and
I've been asking him to watch documentaries with me, and this is the first time it's ever happened.
So for me, when it comes to like, damn, what was that?
What? I don't know. What was that?
Maybe that was my laptop. It was like, ding,
I know,
you're cooked.
Yeah.
Nah, I mean, for me, like, documentaries are something I have to really be in a mind state for. It's not something that I can just, like, jump into. Because I know for me, like, what happened with Kiss the Ground is that, like, my mind state wants to actually, like, if I'm going to put time and energy into something, I'm going to like actually put time and energy into it. It's just the way that I'm built, And so with a documentary, it's not like a TV show. It's not like a movie where it's just like, if you miss like one sentence or two sentences here and there, like you're going to like miss the whole concept of the movie.
Well, and let's admit it, we're probably like we've filled our minds with like Schitt's Creek in between, Sorry.
I pulled through a town today that more or less was the Tennessee version of Schitt's Creek. I mean, literally a town hall was in like a little building. It was very interesting. But more or less my mood has to be in like I want to learn something mood. Mm-hmm. It's like, school is like show up at 7 and start learning by 7:30, and like you better be in the damn mood because it doesn't matter. And it's like some days I was like at 7:30 I was like ready to go, but other days I just wasn't there. Like whatever that first class was, I was like, kick fucking rocks. Like whatever you were going to teach me today is going right over my head. Because it just, and that's just the way my brain works, unless it's something I'm like really into. And as we were watching these documentaries, it just, I was, I had gotten my work done for the day. I wasn't distracted. I didn't have to look at anything else or like focus on anything else. And so it was just like, okay, let's do it. And like, I also knew I wanted to have these conversations with you. And I know like I could have an educated conversation with you because, I'm not uneducated about this, but I feel like as a result of watching, what do we watch, 5 or 6 or something like that? 4 or 5, 6, something, where just kind of getting different. And what was cool is they weren't the same. Right. They all kind of had the same message, but they weren't the same.
It's connected. It's all connected.
And it's all and that was the cool thing is it's all connected to this animal agriculture industry. But it all had a different perspective. One was about the soil and the topsoil and like, like carbon dioxide. Another was about, you can actually eat healthier and it's better for you. Not only physically, but also the dude put dick rings around sports athletes and saw that their dicks were harder and bigger.
Oh yeah,
as a result,
I forgot all about
because
that part.
when they ate a chicken burrito the day before, now they had a test guy.
Not the day before. Wasn't it the night?
No. So it was the day. So day one they had 3 Miami Dolphins players. 2 of them were regular meat eaters, and the other had already switched to vegan as a result of wanting to perform better, and that's what made him perform better. Well, they had a test group. They had him and 2 other dudes eat a burrito. His was vegan and theirs was meat.
Should we warn the people? This is the PG portion.
PG. I've been saying fuck all.
Okay.
PG went out the it was PG-13 on my first fuck. It was definitely rated R by the time like 5 minutes happened.
Okay.
We are an hour and 55 minutes into this. So
if your kids are listening to this, because of what they found out during the study and how they found it out, you might not want them to listen in.
Well, hey, you might. If you want grandchildren,
hold on. No. So this is not probably something you want your children to just hear without any warning that they're going to talk about.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, really seriously. I mean, some people might get a little upset about that.
I don't know, man. But essentially, they tested the blood, and not only on day 1 and day 2 did their blood come back, that the vegan's blood came back clear. Not only his blood, but also his plasma came back clear.
And the
other 2 guys, one who
cloudy.
ate red meat and the other who ate chicken. The red meat came back cloudiest, and then the chickens came back cloudy as well. And then literally the very next day, they had them eat a breakfast burrito made with veggie pork, veggie chicken, and veggie beef. And that's what they all ate. And they drew blood samples after the food processed through their body. They drew blood samples before they had any other meal. And their blood was like significantly clear 1 day later because they just hadn't eaten meat that day. They had no meat, no dairy, no animal products, and it was clear. And then they moved on to a second study in which they did the same thing, test group, vegan, 2 meat eaters, and they had this weird like penis ring that went at the base and one at the tip, the head, and like they throughout the night when like the male anatomy just naturally does its thing,
erections.
I was trying to keep it PG.
You already
naturally does its thing.
You already messed that up.
Why? When I said dick rings,
whatever. But anyway,
but yeah. So and like they showed like a 410% increase in like stiffness and length of time and all of this, and it was just like,
this is while the guys were sleeping, and they complied with this to happen while they were sleeping. So it was a study, and it's
no dicks being, were fiddled without any prior consent.
The point being that the vegan diet was
it's what we're meant for.
It was preferable, way preferable when you looked at the blood results, and
when you looked at the data.
Also for their the other purpose. Seemed to indicate that the people that, or the person that ate vegan, that had the best results there as well. And I was going to give my final words earlier.
Yes.
And now here I am still involved. But I just want to say that if you were inspired.
Close out the pod, Mom.
Yeah. I just want to say that if you were inspired, things you can do, there's so many things you can do to participate or start your activities, or interest in changing the world. And you can get involved with planting a community garden. You can look for so much inspiration out there on the internet as far as the like Instagram or YouTube influencers that are sharing their recipes, sharing their knowledge. Vegan Tipster is great. It gives you so much nutritional information, and just look for that, and go out and try some of the substitutes. When you're going to cook, you can find an all vegan pizza to try. You can, he was talking about the Just Eggs earlier that looks and
it's. I mean, it's not. I would say it's like a 70% match.
Yeah. It's,
I mean,
and you just,
I mean, that's better than some of y'all on online dating sites. So, don't.
But you just add your special touch to it, your special ingredients, your peppers and onions or whatever you want to do with it. And, use it as a baking substitute. So just go out there. Kroger's Simple Truth has vegan chocolate chip cookies, and they're delicious.
Facts.
And just, whatever you want to do your part. And it doesn't matter how, where you start at or how big or how small that is. And, just find your path.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to, kind of close it out with is, everyone thinks that as you try to impact it, as, you hear conversations like the one we just had, and people are like, so what do you want me to do? What do you expect me to do? Just go vegan overnight?
And some will.
Some might. And hey, that works for some people, but for other people it doesn't. And so before I close out the pod, I kind of want to talk on like a journey to help you kind of move into that, and really kind of, no one expects you overnight to just all of a sudden make this huge life change. And I understand that regardless of, if you look up these videos, if you watch these documentaries on Hulu and Netflix, if you see these things and you're like, well, wow, like, I can't believe it. Like, how did I not know this? How was I not aware of this? No one expected you. You're not expected to know what the masses don't want you to know. This country we're living in, this world we're living in, is built on finances, on capitalism. Regardless if they live in a capitalistic society, everywhere is driven by money. Money talks. That's the biggest term, right? Well, what's one of the biggest money makers on this planet? Food. And no one expects you when food has the lobbyists in every country, when drugs have the lobbyists in every country. They're going to tell you what they want you to hear. Regardless if the FDA tells you it's an independently run place that doesn't feel political pressure. You think they didn't feel political pressure? You think someone within the FDA sitting at the very tippity top didn't get political pressure from 45 and from other political leaders, including Joe Biden? Johnson & Johnson just got approved for FDA. You don't think some politicians were in the ear of the leaders over at the FDA to get Johnson & Johnson out there to not only have another vaccine available, but also a vaccine that is one shot, that is a game changer? Of course it's a positive thing, but what I'm saying is nothing is beyond influence. No institution is beyond influence. There are very few institutions that are beyond influence, whether that's by the people or by the politicians. But decisions are made by influence. Look at the companies last year with Black Lives Matter. All these companies put out pouring out support for the Black Lives Matter movement. Not because at the beginning of 2020 they said, we're going to support Black Lives Matter this year. That's a huge company goal of ours. We're going to empower the Black community. We're going to donate millions of dollars that we're going to go to probably some really fucked organizations. To be honest, some very corrupt organizations, I would imagine. I don't know. But they moved that money over there. Not because that was in their like budgeting plan. Q4 2019, they went in and said, we're going to put $10 million into Black Lives Matter. That's not what they went into. That wasn't the conversation. I highly doubt. I have a 99.99% positivity rate that these big corporations did not talk about that shit at the end of 2019. But it's the same with the FDA. It's the same with all these organizations when it comes to food. You're not expected to know what they don't want you to know, which is why we have to, like my mom was saying earlier, we have to educate ourselves. One person at a time. One family. I went an whole 2-hour podcast. Nah, I've pissed my mom off. You want to rejoin the pod, Mom? Shit on me a little bit for the burp. Oh, she's putting the headphones back on. I guess I drew her back in. You're not expected to just do this overnight. You're not expected to just magically, if you're a farmer, no one's asking you overnight to change your farm. We understand there's a process, there's nutrients, there's all this shit that goes into it to change over. The guy we spoke of that has 19 different agricultures, his crops were dead for 5 years because of hailstorms. And then he slowly was able to start growing different agriculture. He healed his land and he started to do this. He said now, and it was, I would imagine that was 2018. So almost 20 years later, he had 19 different agricultures on his land. No one's saying this is an overnight process. The way to do it is not, cold turkey works for some people, but it's not how you fundamentally change your mentality. When I removed red meat from my diet at the end of 2018, when I said I'm done with steaks, I'm done with pork, and yes, pork is a red meat, as many people will try to convince you it's not, it fucking is. You think I don't miss hamburgers? You don't think I miss eating brats? You know why? It's not because I actually enjoyed it. It's because of the nostalgia factor. It's the factor that when you're at a barbecue, you don't feel left out. Our society has made people who say, I don't eat red meat or I just don't eat meat, they've been made to feel like they're burdens because, hey, don't grill my burger on the same side you grill the burgers on the top rack. People then start to try to make you feel like you're an extra burden when really it's not. Because, hey, they don't want to grill, they're not going to grill their burger in a place that's going to fuck up their taste or texture, right? They're going to grill their burger to make it taste the best it can be, So, no one is a burden. But start small. Start small. Create 21-day habits at a time. If need be, cycle it. What I did is I had a 3-week, 21-day cycle. So on a Monday, when I started my diet back in 2018, which because of the pandemic, I have definitely fucked up. When I started my diet, I removed a food item on week 1. I removed a snack item week 2. And I removed a drink week 3. That way it wasn't like I feel overburdened by the fact that I just lost every kind of food that I'm now used to. It wasn't that I felt burdened like I lost every snack that I love to snack on. But by the time 21 days were up, I've now developed a habit. Like what I did, I removed red meat first. By the time I removed red meat, by the time I removed beer, and by the time I removed Oreos in the first 21 days.
Oreos are vegan.
But they're sweets.
Oh, that's true.
So
but they're for all you sweet lovers.
And that was more of an example of the fact that like it was a sweet, eliminating some type of sweet sugary thing that like you could find a better alternative for, like a fruit snack or like a fruit strip or something. But my point being is that it was a food, a sweet, a drink. Now when I'm circling back around and I say, well, now I don't feel like red meat, like, and then you go into removing fish. Now you're down to red meat. Now you're down red meat and fish, but you still have access to chicken. You create another 21-day cycle. Your habit is now built. And as long as you continue to just follow these very step-by-step habits, people look at all these, ripped people on Instagram and Facebook and on all the tonal videos. You see all these ripped and fit people. That shit didn't happen overnight. It took months and months and months and months and months and months and months of hard work. The dude you see in the park all muscly and kind of douchey doing 72 pull-ups on a kid's play set, he didn't start doing 72 pull-ups in the first grade. He did one pull-up. He did the one he was able to do. Came back, did 2. Came back, did 3, came back, did 5, and kept going up from there. And that's the same way you can approach changing your habits and changing your lifestyle for the better. Helping impact our world in a positive way. I'm not like a Green New Deal, let's get, all of this. I understand the industry. I understand the aspects of you can't just overnight kill an entire industry without forcing thousands of people to go broke and to lose their jobs, and their entire family ecosystem is, we have to figure out a way to, and that's all really anyone's asking.
Well, can I add something on that note?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at a Forbes article from January the 14th, 2020. A lot of people covered this. A lot of news agencies are still covering this, to this day. And so this is just one article I found, but it's talking about poultry to plant-based. Animal farmers are now working with vegans to get out of the meat business. So it gives an example of Mike Weaver isn't a vegan for close to 2 decades. He was a contract chicken grower for a Brazilian-owned poultry company. This person lives in West Virginia, but, he decided he wanted to get out of the poultry business and grow plants instead, hemp to be specific. And he's 68 years old, but he wants to be a part of the growing movement of farmers looking to get out and, take advantage of the new plant-based economy. And so there is a program, I think Mercy for Animals came up with it.
Yeah.
And it's called Transformation.
Just to be very clear.
Yes,
Transformation, not transformation, transformation.
And it says the aim, according to the project's website. Transformation. So according to the project's website, is to help farmers looking to transition from livestock production to crops for plant-based production. And that may not be the only one out there at this point.
Oh, no,
I
guarantee you there's a lot of other programs.
If you know any farmers, actually some of these industries, like the milk industry, the dairy industry, it's not looking so good, And this is actually something they can go ahead and get ahead of the curve on and get into the plant-based farming.
And that was more or less where I was about to go with, and so like that's a really great point about even the farmers themselves are starting to see the trends. Now, when I talk about take these 21-day habits and change a little bit here and a little bit there, as the consumer, we forget that we the people, there are 2 senators for each state. 1 president for the entire country, right? And I'm just speaking for America, right? 3 leaders in like top lawmaking area that affect our day-to-day state life, regardless where we're at, right? 3 human beings. Think about that. Your household, your typical household family that might be a mom, dad, son, and a grandparent outnumbers your lawmaking leaders. You have more voices probably within your household than your lawmakers sitting in D.C. Think about that for a second. So when you make change, when we want change, we just have to speak. We have to show it. And that's where we can really make the change, is supply and demand. You already see this ever-growing change in longtime grocery stores that stocked all these varying dairy farms of milk and cheese and butter and all of this. Those sections are now being replaced with plant-based butter, with olive oil products, with sustainable resources that even just 5 years ago weren't as abundant. And honestly, as delicious. I'm not going to lie to you. Things even 5 years ago were a little off. They were still figuring it out. Corn was still trying to figure out where to put the taste palette, should say. But if you take those steps to eliminate even just a few things, if you eliminate even just red meat, fish, and poultry from your diet, you've now eliminated a huge portion, regardless if you're still, just like me, engaging in dairy and eggs. You've eliminated a huge portion of demand, even over your entire lifespan. People don't realize if you're eating meat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, every day, maybe even a beef jerky stick in the middle of the day, maybe eating a pack of Sasquatch big beef jerky, peppered, little peppercorn. The sheer amount of meat that is consumed by one human being increases the demand. When you switch your diet, when you are able to switch your diet to where even just like me, 60, 70% of what you intake is either eliminating. So like, I don't really do anything. Like really, I eat products that use milk in the like actual mix. Like if it's like a pre-baked croissant bread or something like that I buy, like that's more or less the only time I use anything from the actual like milk industry. I still eat cheese and I still eat eggs. But in my lifetime, I've eliminated a huge amount of red meat consumption already.
Well, you are using just eggs sometimes.
Well, so like,
or vegan cheese, you're buying that.
Yeah, I mean we buy alternate cheeses all the time. Missy. Yeah, we buy alternate cheeses. You know, the only cheese we really buy is Swiss. That's really the only like actual cheese that we have yet to find an alternative cheese that just is like a Swiss cheese. But my point being is that you have the power to affect supply and demand. If everyone in America had a diet that was 60, 70, 80% vegan, we could change the world. And that's just a start.
And if you go vegan all the way, I read this recently, that you individually, just you, are saving the lives of an average of 300 animals a year.
That's fucking nuts.
300 a person. And that could go,
per year.
obviously that could go up or down depending on what you were eating.
Yeah.
But think about that, and that impact. And so, right, you're decreasing the demand.
But that's money talks. Mm-hmm. Money will always talk. And that's my point, is we have the power as a society to influence supply and demand. And if we start saying, hey, smart ones, I know you keep saying you're putting out healthy things, but if everything you're giving me only has meat products or cheese products in it, why would I buy you anymore? Why should I buy you? And that's really the question, is if there are so many opportunities now for us, if more and more of us just keep showcasing that we are willing. It's just fucking up the money, man. If you fuck up the money, they can't deny it anymore. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's literally the response. People want to show all these facts, and even us today, we've talked about a bunch of facts, CO2 and carbon emissions and tilling and only 60 harvests left and we're going to die. And yes, it's all scary. We're saving 300 animals. All of these facts exist. But the fact of the matter is we hold the power in our hands to fuck up the money. Just like last year when the Black Lives Matter movement happened and the black dollar was at stake, what did the companies decide to do that wanted to keep the black dollar? They said, we're supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. We're posting the black image to our Twitter feeds and to our Instagram feeds. They did that shit because they knew the black dollar could fuck up the money. Because the black dollar is powerful in America. Admit it or deny it if you want. I'm admitting it, and I know it. The black dollar is powerful as fuck. If you deny that, you are stupid. And just like that, snap of a finger, when we decide something is not there, how do you fuck up the money? The Redskins in Washington never were going to change their name. Snyder was like, I'm never changing the name of the Washington Redskins. Redskins is a term I don't even like saying, and I'm only saying it right now in the concept of reporting on it on this podcast. Why do you think they're the Washington football team now? They have no name. Because $60 billion worth of hedge fund managers had the wherewithal to contact their largest sponsors, Pepsi, FedEx, who had the naming rights to the stadium, $250 million naming rights to the stadium. What did FedEx say? When it leaked that they all got reached out to, when these firms leaked that of who they reached out to, what did they all say? They all got back and said, yeah, y'all should probably reevaluate your name, fam. And then it hit FedEx. FedEx said, yeah, you need to rename your shit or we're pulling our money. That was it. Naming rights to a stadium is a huge contract. That fucks up the money. And that's what we got to do. I'm not saying we have to be perfect. I'm not perfect. And it's going to be a journey for me to move into a better lifestyle of my own. But I already wanted to make this journey. And in this past week, just having discussions with my mother, watching these documentaries, and even doing a little bit of extra research on my own, I know now that's the journey I'm supposed to take. Because I know I want a long life for myself and for my kids and for my grandkids. Because already our society is getting fucked up. I remember going to Waterworks Park for hours on end to play ball. And now I can barely find a basketball hoop because no one gives a fuck about going to the park and balling up no more. And that was pre-pandemic. Don't even tell me it's a pandemic thing. That's pre-pandemic. Hoops gone. Gentrification happening. Why? Because money. Money talks. And that's what we got to do. Make change slowly. Do your thing. Do it what is best for you so that you can better impact things down the road. It doesn't have to be in a day. It doesn't have to be in a week or a month. Take your time. Develop your habits. And help make yourself a better person, a healthier person. And I'm not saying being a vegan or a vegetarian makes you a better person. It makes your insides better. You are a better person internally because your body isn't trying to kill itself.
Well, and you're not harming anyone else, and it does make you feel good.
Yeah. I mean, and that's...
It doesn't, not better.
Fatigue,
you're just trying to say,
I'm not trying to say
better
there's
than
like...
other people.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I do not want that to be misconstrued. I'm saying you are a better person as a result of like literally you are healthier, you are livelier, your fatigue fades, your energy rises, like you become a better person in multiple healthy aspects of your life that are for you. You know, we're in a selfish society. Let's admit it. We are selfish human beings. We're not going to make a decision in today's era if we're only doing it for someone else. There are selfless people out there, and bless their hearts for them. But we do things at the end of the day, even if it's helping somebody else, somehow, some way, and some portion of it goes back into, you help your homie move furniture because at some point you going to be moving out of your apartment and you're on the 3rd floor and you need a homie to help you move your couch. Like you do these things as like a little ticker in your head. We are a selfish society. I'm telling you the selfish reason to do this, you can live longer, fam. Who doesn't want to?
And for those years you live higher quality life. And visit, I just wanted to say, one of the sites you can visit is www.livekindly.com and many others. And all right. Good night from me. I've said goodbye before. Jump back on.
She heard me burp. She came back just to scold me. No. Give me a face, thumbs down.
Well, I didn't have to get on the mic for that.
But yeah, man, I mean, that's really my whole point is not only when you move your diet to more vegan or all vegan, I don't know what she's like fucking with the pop filter.
I have no idea what I'm doing over here.
She's like fucking with the pop filter. It's funny. But when you are actively partaking in the vegan community, in the vegetarian community, and you're buying those products, what you are showcasing is two things. Not only are you showing the devaluation of the animal industry, that it's not as necessary anymore.
It's not necessary.
Well, and that's so you're jumping the gun to my point, that it's not as necessary anymore as we thought it once was. It's being shown that it's not necessary at all. When you have McDonald's, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, all these places taking Impossible and Beyond into the fold, why do you think that is? Because they're just trying to provide a healthy option for when you're in a car of 4 people and the vegan homie can't eat Mickey D's, so you don't pull up at Mickey D's? No. Because there's money to be made with it. So it's a twofold aspect when you live a lifestyle that is primarily vegan, that is primarily vegetarian, or that is 100% both. You show the purchasing power of the vegan and vegetarian industry, and you show the complete and utter unimportance of animal farming, of dairy, of eggs, and of the agriculture industry to feed those animals that are fucking up our soil, taking up precious land that could be growing food that we can actually eat, and ultimately killing our planet. So take it into account, man. Take it from me. What do I know? I'm just your boy. I'm just white rice with 2 rice bowl emojis. Trying to figure out life, man. I'm on a journey of my own. And being on my own journey, I'm just sharing my information with you. But you take what it is, man, and start a journey of your own. And with that, we out. Well, with that, now we out. What it fucking do? It's your boy, White fucking Rice.